Yes, we've known now for a couple of days that we were likely to get some sort of easing of measures, but nobody was exactly sure what it would entail. The measures themselves have actually probably exceeded a lot of people's expectations. They've announced the end of a ban of travelers from high-risk countries, including Australia. They have shortened quarantine for inbound travelers from 14 days in the hotel to 7. They're planning to reopen schools at the end of April. And probably most importantly, they've suspended a planned compulsory universal testing scheme, which was actually set to start a couple of weeks ago. So these changes are a bit surprising for many people. It was very different from a lot of the language that they've been hearing from the government for the last couple of weeks in terms of recommitting to zero COVID. So there is a feeling that this might be a signal that the government is beginning to be ready to move away from that strategy in the medium or long run.
Now, talk us through what Hong Kong has been dealing with in the last month. How bad has the situation become there?
Yeah, the situation here in Hong Kong has been very challenging, very grim for about 6 weeks now. We had a couple of imported cases early in January, and unfortunately they were not contained. And so starting in mid-February, we saw an explosion of cases. Hong Kong had only ever recorded 12,000 cases and 200 deaths leading up to this time period. And we really got to the point where we were recording 30, 50,000 cases a day, and that was probably an underestimate. We've now achieved recorded officially over 1 million cases, and unfortunately 6,000 deaths. So this is a really tragic situation. We've had our hospitals have been so overloaded that pictures of patients lining up in the streets, sleeping overnight in the streets, pictures of corpses piling up inside of hospital wards has really been shocking. We've run out of coffins, and the situation doesn't seem to be getting better anytime soon.
Now, part of this high mortality rate is to do with the stunningly low vaccination rates, particularly among the elderly. What contributed to that situation?
Yeah, the question about vaccine hesitancy is never a single story anywhere in the world. I think a number of factors contributed to this. First, there was a lot of confusion up front about which vaccines were safest, which vaccines were most effective, confusing information coming in from the experts and the politicians. Following that, there was a recommendation that everyone should go and speak to their doctor about whether or not they made a good candidate to get vaccinated. And so you end up getting a situation in which people were finding out, because of risk factors or so that they were being told that they probably shouldn't be getting vaccinated, which of course is the absolute opposite of what we would want from a public health perspective. And then finally, we had 8 months of zero COVID, and that really took the urgency around trying to address this issue off the public policy agenda, and therefore nothing was really done about it for months.
Now, I guess the main question here is Hong Kong making the right moves now to address the situation by introducing this easing of measures? What's your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think in the short run, the focus must be on continuing to deal with the current outbreak. We've seen a need to expand out our hospital capacity just to continue to deal with the surge of cases that are still going to be hitting the system in the next couple of weeks. We need to continue to push on getting vaccination rates up. We've seen an increase in the number of people vaccinated amongst the elderly, but it has fallen off in the last couple of weeks, and we're not seeing any new takers. So we need some new strategies. I think as cases begin to come down, I think the easing of some of these measures will make a lot of sense. It is definitely good from an international business perspective in terms of opening up the city again. And it does represent, I think, a shift in focus for the government of a real desire at some point to actually allow Hong Kong to really open up to the rest of the world.
A very worrying situation there, Karen, but hopefully we'll see some improvement. Karen Grepin, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.